We'll be taking care of PV every day. Taking care of PV every way. We've been taking care of PV. It's all ours. Taking care of PV and investing in our town PV.
Hi, welcome to PV in Focus. I'm Ryan Judy, Deputy Town Manager, here with our powerhouse economic development team, Diana Soto and Jamie Kerr. I've introduced Diana before as Diana Ross, but she says she can't sing.
I don't sing.
So we'll go along with Diana Soto. So we're excited to talk about all things economic development today and how we recruit industry to town and retailers and learn all about that process. So I think we'll start us off. Jamie, I'll ask you a question. So what makes Prescott Valley an effective place for businesses and investors right now?
Right now, it's all about the quality of jobs, the amount of people that are employable, and the surroundings. This is a beautiful community. It's easy to get to, and there's an abundance of employees.
Talking about economic development, how do you define that? If nobody's in that business, what is economic development?
Economic development is the creation of high-quality, net new jobs for the community, sustainable jobs that will last for a couple of generations. So those are the kind of companies that we're trying to attract, ones that are invested in the community and also have an outlook of longevity.
So are you going after these employers that are like 500,000, 10,000 people to come to Prescott Valley? What's your target?
No, my target is anywhere from 25 to 50 employees per individual business. It's sustainable, it's easy, and because of the workforce here and the surrounding workforce, these jobs will be high paying, so you'll be able to attract quality employees.
I think the problem with going after those large retailers is that if there is a recession or something along those lines, or the company is cutting back, when they lay off or RIF, hundreds or thousands of employees, it has a huge impact on the economy of whatever city or town that they're in. So I love that approach of going after some of those smaller job creators, like you said, the 25 to 50, because they're more reliable, they're not as prone to like a recession as some other employers might be.
Correct.
So talk about the types of industries that you are going after.
Well, as I said in the very beginning, we're going after high-tech, high-wage jobs. Prescott Valley has some fantastic employers already, and we want to continue to grow on that base. For example, I just spent a week down in Phoenix at SemiCon, which is the International Semiconductor Show, from companies from all around the world to come over and show their wares. And because of the high presence in Arizona, Arizona's become a hotbed for the semiconductor industry. So as you know, we have TSMC, Intel, and up in Prescott we have Pure Wafer. They need second and third tier suppliers. Those second and third tier supplier jobs are imperative to have. So why not have them here? We've already got a couple up here. For example, Granite Mountain, which is down on the southern half towards Dewey, is a cabinet manufacturer for all of them, for Intel, mainly TSMC, but they also supply some information and materials to Pure Wafer as well.
That's amazing that we have that industry that's already in Prescott Valley. I know you mentioned Granite Mountain, that they've gone through how many expansions on their existing site?
They've gone through 3. When I was with the Commerce Authority, I helped them with tax credits for 3 expansions, and they just bought the building between the 2 buildings they own, which is the old Foxworth Galbraith building. And they're putting in a whole nother fab line in that building.
How many employees do they have?
Right now they have about 100, and this new fab will create probably 50 more.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And they have a good quality of payment and insurance and everything. They make sure they take very good care of their employees so that they retain them. So it's not a lot of turnover.
So economic development, job creation, this is not just something that Prescott Valley is doing, but it's a lot of regional collaboration. So talk to us a little bit about partnerships with Yavapai College, CTEC, Mountain Institute. How are those playing into our economic growth strategy?
They are a huge bonus for us because Yavapai College, even our high schools are grade A. And so Now that we know we have a recruiting bed to this, if we integrate them and put them through Yavapai College and the C-Tech program, these companies can use that resource to build a model on how to use their equipment and train them. So basically it just becomes they're training their employees and putting them through and able to have a ready source of employees. They're not going to be hard struck to find people.
So it's a pipeline, if you will, of
It is.
the new generation coming up, and actually for kids to be able to stay in Prescott Valley and work if they have that desire. And I've heard that from kids, that they want that, to be able to stay in Prescott Valley and get a job and retire here. Of course, there are some kids that, say there's nothing to do here. We hear that a lot, and we're working to that end as well. But we do have kids that want to stay here. I mean, who would not want to live in our area?
And they do. They want to stay here, but they, like you said, they need a source of a good job. Think about how many young families are here that are already working here, that are raising their kids here. Quality education, quality jobs for them as they grow up is imperative. And that's what fuels it. That's what keeps them here. Obviously, they're going to spread their wings and go to college or do what they're going to do. But to have that knowledge that they can come home and be home and get a great quality job here and raise their family is what we're after.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. So let's flip a little bit to the retail side with Diana here. We've done lots of studies over the years. What are some of the retail gaps that you think we have in Prescott Valley?
Well, you're talking about young families, right? And I would say entertainment, family entertainment is definitely a gap that we are working towards filling. I would say that definitely grocery, while not a gap, but we can certainly use additional grocery stores in certain underserved areas. And then we have very specific retail, right? Whether it be, I kid about it all the time, but not really, a shoe store. Mm-hmm. We really can use a shoe store, whether it be DSW, Foot Locker, whomever that may be. But we really only have a couple of options here in town. And beyond that, we don't want our families to bleed out of town to do their shopping. We really want them to stay in town and be able to purchase what they need here in our zip code.
So you talk about some of these underserved areas, and let's take Aldi for example. Aldi has announced that they're coming, and they chose a site that's next to Kohl's. And tell us about the site selection process, how a company decides where they want to locate. Why did Aldi choose that location instead of up north or on the east side of town near Quailwood?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's the company that makes the selection. We honestly, as a town, do not ask or say this is where you need to be. And many times what they go after is cluster competition. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of residents. They say, why in the world would they be there between this busy, two busy retail stores? Why would they not go anywhere else? But that's truly what they're looking for. They're also looking for a certain type of audience. Many times an Aldi will specifically go next to a Walmart, and you rarely see them anywhere else. Will Aldi go to 89 North? Ideally, but there isn't any competition out there as of yet, so likely not.
So I know we talk about that, like underserved areas on the north side of town.
Yes.
And I've loved to see the new Roberts Market development. Nobody wants to be the first one to go into a new area, but once Roberts went in there, with that strip mall there, and it's a very nice looking development.
It's gorgeous.
But now you've got BOSA, you've got a medical office there, you've got Sakura, you've got Lindo, Mexico, and I drive by there every day, and those restaurants are always packed, so I love to see that.
Busy.
And so I think when other businesses see that success, it draws them to that same area. You start to see that cluster development. And we worked really hard to try to get some services on the north side of town. I know the town installed a new sewer line to add capacity there. We have incentives that allow businesses that would go in there to receive rebates on construction sales tax. So we really are trying to push some of those outer areas, so not everybody has to drive into the central core of Prescott Valley.
100%. And you're absolutely right. Once someone makes that decision, that's the domino that tips the entire line, right? They will continue to come. And that would be our vision as well. Grocery store, some retail, small service, whether it be barbershop, hair salon, postal services. That would be ideal for that area.
So what are companies looking for when they're deciding where to locate?
they are looking for rooftops and they're looking for a certain population. And while many would think, well, that area is so busy as it is, but they are not residents. They're looking for residential rooftops, not just transient transactions or population, if you will. So if a certain area holds 5,000 or 6,000 rooftops, that may be ideal. If we're sitting at 3,000, 3,500, it just might not meet the cusp they're looking for. And that's kind of what we're dealing with on 89 North. We're just not quite there yet with the absolute residences that belong to Prescott Valley. We have county residents, but they count Prescott Valley since that property is in Prescott Valley proper.
And traffic is a big item as well,
Traffic is
right?
huge.
You know, so for retailers coming in, they're going to look at Highway 69, which can have anywhere from 30 to 40,000 cars a day, to Highway 89A, which probably has more on the line of 20,000 cars a day. And so they're really going to look at what that traffic is in front of their business before they
Exactly
decide
right.
where to locate.
That's exactly right.
How do people support local businesses? Talk to us about the Shop Local 365 campaign.
I can't stress enough how important local shopping is. I often use the example of school shopping for your children. It is so easy, especially if you have 2 or 3 children that you're shopping for, to maybe head down to another area where there are bigger department stores or a huge mall where you can just spend one day. But think about the money that you're spending. $400 or $500 to a small business here in our area is detrimental. Does it take a little bit more planning? Does it take a little bit more strategy, if you will, in your shopping? Maybe, right? But it is just so important to continuously support our business, whether it be local mom and pop or whether it be commercial, as long as it's business in Prescott Valley, honestly, and as long as our expenditures stayed here in this area.
Why the huge focus on retail in Prescott Valley?
Well, the huge focus on retail in Prescott Valley is because it becomes a huge source for us as far as tax dollars are concerned. And that's what we use to provide for our infrastructure and everything else that we need. We do not tax our residents any type of a property tax per se. And so we live off of the tax dollars, retail tax dollars, bed tax dollars. Very vital to us. And as costs are going up with infrastructure, with safety, with road, anything that we need to be able to maintain that. And if we don't constantly grow that or fill those coffers, just like a home budget, we end up in a deficit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It goes to pay for those core critical services, to pay for police, for our parks, you know, to maintain our roads. So those are huge areas, because you're right, we don't assess a property tax, so we have to rely on some income for those services.
Yep.
All right, Jamie, talk to us about the jobs, the current jobs in the area. What are the large employers in Prescott Valley?
The large employers here are healthcare with Dignity Health. Home Depot is one of our largest ones too. The town. But on the smaller side, some of the big manufacturing industries like Superior Industries is a fantastic employer. Ace Hardware, the warehouse distribution, another huge, very beneficial employer to us. And then you've got the manufacturing side, Print Pack, and Yampa, Precision Manufacturing. They all play into this part of growing in the manufacturing side and our tax base. It's imperative that we keep these going. Some of them have already expanded a couple times, which is good. That shows that they're very well positioned in this community, and they want to grow, and they want to keep growing here. They want to make sure that they keep attracting new employees here. And so that's where we're trying to bridge that gap with education as they go through, so that they can just come right out and go right into these jobs.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned the hospital. And if you're familiar with where they're located at in Prescott Valley, there's a lot of vacant land around them. And I know that they actually just purchased 30 acres for future expansion. So we're very excited about that. That's in their long-term future, how they improve that campus. But I know they have a big vision, you know, designed to improve medical care in Prescott Valley. And that was one of the items that rose to the top of our community survey, was the need for increased medical care in PV, because there are specialties that we don't have. We hear a lot about people traveling to to Phoenix or the Valley for specialty medical care. And we want to be able to increase those services here in Prescott Valley so people don't have to travel as much.
And I think that's imperative because that's what keeps an economy growing too, is that we have the services that our older population needs as well as the kids, you know, and the younger adults. And if it's full service and full circle, then they don't have to leave. That's why I think it's fantastic that Dignity's making the investment and they're going to try to grow this. That also trickles down into attracting new doctors, new nurses, new hospital staff.
Yeah, so Diana, talking about that, how do we attract professionals to come to the area? What are they looking for in a community?
Quality of life, seasonality, community, education for their children and their families. These are all the things that they're looking for. They're also looking for long-term generational living. We talk about, great, this might work in your career now, but think about 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you may want to retire here, you may want to stay. Your kids will want to grow up here, going back to what Jamie said at the beginning of the show. It's just a full cycle, and that's truly how we pose it, because that is reality.
Now, I know you mentioned education, so what role does education play in attracting professionals into our community?
For the children, right? Elementary school education, high school education, even community college education. Our community college is fantastic. It offers a few four-year programs, so the young adults are not traveling out of the area to attain that, and they're easily transferable into one of the top 10 employers and be employed immediately.
Mm-hmm. So if I were a doctor, heaven forbid, moving to Prescott Valley, I'm going to want my kids to get a quality education,
100%.
right? And so, kudos to our school district that had several A-rated schools.
That's right.
And that's really what we're striving for, so we can attract those families to Prescott Valley.
Yes, every little bit helps. It is a cycle. It is one complete cycle, and at one point we just penetrate it and just continue making it stronger for Prescott Valley.
So Jamie, how do we balance this desire for jobs in retail with keeping Prescott Valley what it is, a small community feel where people know their neighbors? What has Prescott Valley done to balance that retail and economic growth with our environment?
Well, I think we're looking at many different options on how we attract, where we attract, and where we put them, because we all know that open space is key up here. The wildlife corridor has been proved to be very beneficial, and the community seems to be responding very well to that. So I think if we're really targeted on where we're going to put these businesses and how we grow them, that'll make a big difference. We have redevelopment. We have plans for infill development, where we don't have to go put them out in the middle of an open space. We can leave the open space and we can put them where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. How does it impact our quality of life as a whole?
If we keep the balance and make sure that we keep everybody in the understanding that the community needs to grow to be successful, yet leave our open spaces and leave our people these places to play, the parks, which I think you and Diana will get into, like the regional park that we're in the process of building, that we have separation of basically business and quality of life.
Mm-hmm. You're right. We want jobs, we want retail, but we also want the ability to recreate. The last episode of this podcast that I did was hiking up Glassford Hill, and I love hiking and getting out in nature, and I want that for me, and I want that for my family as well. I don't want to see development everywhere.
Right.
And that's why we talk about with those wildlife corridors, what we're really talking about is clustering, growth in certain areas and leaving other areas open where all of us can enjoy it and our animal friends can enjoy it, and we're not losing part of our identity as we continue to grow.
Right.
Circling back to all the reasons why you would want to be in Prescott Valley and why professionals would want to be here as well. It's these wonderful things that we offer. We're a very unique area as opposed to Phoenix or even Flagstaff, because we have a little of everything. We have the pine tops and we have the grasslands and we have the commerce and we just really are balanced, and we just continue to strive for that.
And it plays into the work-life balance.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, because you work all day manufacturing, doing whatever But you need to de-stress, you need to get out, you have somewhere to go. You have somewhere to go de-stress, to figure out what you need to do for your inner peace, other than just being behind that machine.
Yeah. So Jamie, what are the town's biggest economic development priorities over the next 5 years?
Quality jobs, sustainability, and work-life balance, and making sure that everybody is in step with the values and the views that we have in the town.
And Diana, how do you see the retail landscape changing over that same time period?
That retail landscape will be changing in certain areas, right? You referred earlier, focusing on our core area, developing that, keeping the open spaces, bringing in businesses that are really going to serve our families as that evolves, what serves them best. We are now seeing in the retail world that the brick and mortars are now a smaller footprint. So we may see a little more specialty stores and businesses as well. It all evolves, and it all just, as we are growing and as we're identifying those needs, that's what's coming in.
And so this last question is for both of you. What can residents do to increase economic development in our areas?
I am ready to jump to answer that. Support local. I can't say it enough. It means the world to all of our local businesses. And when I say local, specifically mom and pop, but especially commercial as well, keep it in our zip code. You know, and sometimes people think that even Amazon is contrary to that. It really isn't. If your account is attached to this zip code, we benefit from it. Keep it in the zip code. It's almost like a new campaign, but that's when we say shop local, we mean that. Keep it in Prescott Valley. If it can mean the difference of a meal, it can mean the difference of an outfit, it can mean the difference of a service. Keep it in Prescott Valley.
What do you think, Jamie?
I think we have such a diverse community here, between the kids all the way up to the retired individuals. There's a lot of opportunity for the retired individuals to come in and help. There's a lot of places around the state that have what's called the Service Corps of Retired Executives. I'd like to bring that back to Prescott Valley. I know we have a lot of retirees that have a lot more to offer. And I think if we could get them to come in and help educate the kids, and that starts in grade school, and help them, talk to them about what business is all about, and start training them a little bit. And then not only that, then you have businesses that are struggling a little bit, that need some help. These guys can impart their wisdom on these businesses and be able to help them through the hard times. Just like the SBDC does, but these guys are personal, one-on-one. I would love to see some more interaction.
Yeah, and I've seen actually online campaigns before as well, where residents say, I called Aldi or I called Winco, and if you get 500 to 1,000 people in Prescott Valley that are calling these retailers or these businesses saying, please come here, we want you, I can't help but think that's going to have a big impact on some of their site selectors. Like maybe we should take another look at Prescott Valley as a place to do business.
Absolutely, that's right.
All right, we're actually starting a new component of this podcast called Social Spotlight. And this comes directly from our Facebook page. So Diana, this question is for you. Any word, what's going on in the old Jack in the Box in Prescott Valley?
Oh, if these walls can talk. There is some interest in the building, and I firmly believe that based on community previous requests, they may be very happy about it. But unfortunately, we are under an NDA, and I cannot disclose that.
What is an NDA?
An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement, and many times when companies come in as a franchisee or at a corporate level, until they get all of their legalities buttoned up, they really do not want a public announcement made. Anything, just like an escrow in a home, anything can happen in the 10th hour, and they really don't like that negative attention. So we just stay tight-lipped about it as much as we possibly can, and that's what I'm doing.
All right. Appreciate that. All right, next question, Diana. And we already talked about Aldi a little bit, but did they build the Aldi? That's what I'm waiting for.
It hasn't been built yet, but dirt will be moving very, very soon. I was just on the phone with the regional director this past week, and the focus date is actually before the end of the year. There will be some sort of movement, there will be the official signage, and so on. Do we have a date yet? No, but that is definitely a very aggressive date for them, yeah. And
So
that's what they're expecting
So
to
we
do.
could have a groundbreaking
We
by
could
the
have
end
a
of this calendar
groundbreaking by
year.
then. Yep,
That'd
absolutely.
be a great Christmas present for
For
Prescott
our
Valley.
residents, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, last question is for you. We need a lot more commercial and a lot less houses. How are all these people supposed to support themselves? So I'll add on to that. Are you out there recruiting new apartments and residential subdivisions to come to Prescott Valley?
No, I'm not. They come here organically. If the businesses come, these housing developers and community developers will come because they see the work there. And this is, once again, it ties back into what we were talking about, being targeted in community where they can go and, have their own building and everything without disturbing and sprawl, like you said. So no, we don't go out and actively recruit them.
All right, thank you, Jamie. All right, that wraps up this podcast for PV in Focus. Appreciate Diana and Jamie for joining us, and we will see you next time.
We'll be taking care of PV.